following program is brought to you by the Department of Information and Public Relations in an effort to keep you fully informed and abreast of government issues, projects, plans, and activities.
What is GIS? GIS stands for Geographical Information System. It is used to map locations. GIS can be used in many different ways. For example, placing your data on a map highlights where coral reefs or mangroves are located, if you are a conservation manager, or the location of water pipes or electricity poles, if you are a utility provider. You can update your map at the click of a button as new water pipes are laid or buildings constructed. GIS allows you to view, understand, question, interpret, and visualize your data in ways that would not be possible just by looking at data on a spreadsheet. In the BVI, GIS is used by various government agencies. The data is shared across the government through the National GIS Network, which leads to informed decision-making in the development planning process, the selection of protected areas, and the future needs of our community. This is the power of GIS. So how is GIS used? Members of the National GIS Committee, representing a broad spectrum of government agencies, talk about how they use GIS in their respective areas.
The Water and Sewage Department is relatively the newest government department or agency to implement a fully functional GIS. At the department, we partake in a data collection process, which is mobile mapping. We also do database management through the information that we collect on the field. And as a result of such information, we do desktop publishing where we generate maps for our own use. At the department, both water and sewage information is collected. That's based on our networks. On the water network, we collect information from the reservoirs, the different pump stations. All the apparatus is located on the water line, such as valves, hydrants, and meters. On the sewage side of it, we collect information from the manholes, the network lines connecting to them, and also the relatively pump stations. GIS is used in the department to primarily project the data that we collect on the field. It also serves in squaring any required information that may be required of us or asked of us from the department in terms of the provision of information or essential services or just relating to the customer's needs. Information is then placed into a database, which is also shared by the National GIS with other government agencies and statutory bodies. Lastly but not least, the GIS system enables the department personnel to locate apparatuses on the system, as such speeding up our recovery time of getting hot water to the customers in the events of any water leaks or valves we may be shut or could not be located or so forth.
Well, the Conservation and Fisheries Department, we manage natural resources of the Virgin Islands, and we use it to monitor habitat, and we use it to monitor habitat changes. That will be changes in our mangroves or coral reefs or seagrass or salt ponds, beaches or coastline and other areas like that. Well, we collect various environmental data. We collect water quality data from different areas where people swim or where there is water that is conducive to people's health. We collect data such as turtle tagging sites, turtle monitoring sites where turtles nest. We collect data on the changes in our coastline, changes in our beach profile, how the area changes, whether through reclamation, erosion, degradation, changes in coral reefs, what areas have been diseased, destroyed by anchorages, and fishing zones as well. Our mandate at the department is to sustain our natural resources. And in doing that, in determining these changes, we can use this data collected and enter it into our system called a coastal atlas. And with these layers overlaying on top of each other, we are able to determine where vulnerable areas are to degradation, So we are able to use this information to plot changes and also model outcomes of future events of these resources so that we can give this information to decision makers so they'll be able to put measures in place to help us sustain our natural environment.
Our mandate is actually location dependent. That is, we depend on location to respond to emergencies. And the GIS serves that purpose in terms of giving us access to resources as well as to street and property locations. The kind of data that we collect using the GIS system is the location of hydrants, as well as those risks, those operations that might pose a risk to the community. Things that use chemicals or store chemicals or gases, those are the type of operations I'm referring to. Our mission is location dependent, and therefore what we do is we're able to locate hydrants and also the properties in quick time so that we can actually have emergency vehicles respond to incidents. And that's how we assist the public using the GIS.
Survey use GIS in many ways. One of the main uses of GIS in the department is to collect data. Data is collected by collecting fences, collecting roads, and other topographical features on the ground. The purpose of collecting that data is to add in our digital database where that information is handed over to the other GIS users, such as the conservation of fisheries, water and sewage, town country planning. We basically is responsible for all the parcel data. That is the boundaries of each and every parcel, the parcel number, etc. The public benefits in two ways. One, efficiency. The department is able to retrieve that data much more quickly and be able to offer the public efficient and prompt service. Two, it makes sure that this data is reliable and accurate.
The main use that we are having for the GIS is by assessing the hazards and vulnerabilities of development and subdivision applications that are being under evaluation within the town and country planning and the planning authority. So once we are assessing a site, we are actually looking at the hazard data that we have already in the GIS database, which are landslides, storm surge, liquefaction potential, the geology maps, and so on. And based on any hazard identified for a site, we do make recommendations to the planning authority in terms of site plan adaptation, incorporation of setback from the guts, and so on, to improve the actual plan for the site in order to reduce the risk of the development within the hazard identified in the area. The main benefit, I will say that our objective is to reduce the risk of the population to actually lose their property, their investment, and even their lives. That is our main responsibility. So by doing this kind of hazard and vulnerability assessment with the hazard data that we already had at the department, the public will be aware of the risk that their site has, and they can somehow reduce the risk or avoid any impact from any disaster or any major event that might happen in the territory.
At the Town and Country Planning Department, we use GIS to collect our application data, collect building use information, and also help us with our long-term planning and strategic goals of the department. The type of data that we use in the department is mainly the buildings or for building applications that are submitted. It's used to collect information about the type of use of that particular building. It could be a commercial, residential, institutional building. We also utilize subdivision applications, which is subdivisions of various parcels of land throughout the territory. GIS helps us to locate particular applications that are submitted to the department, so we can help better locate these various agencies. It also helps the public to gain better access or quicker reference to a particular application once it's submitted to the department. And also, if we're conducting a building use, it will help us out in the field to locate various agencies.
We use GIS at the National Parks Trust to map plants and animals. These could be critically endangered animals like the Anegada rock iguana or red mangrove species that we are mapping the replanting sites along the southern coast of Tortola. We also use it to map historical sites because at the national parks we manage the environment as well as historical sites, in addition to mooring buoys at various locations around the marine environment. We use GPS units similar to what I'm holding right now, and we go out in the field either with research scientists that we're working with, or our staff can go out collecting them as part of their everyday duties. Well, our mandate, our vision, is to protect and manage designated natural and cultural protected areas. So we have 21 national parks and we have a limited number of staff. So using GIS is a very efficient way of mapping what we have and then portraying that information in a map so that we could show our boss, the director of the National Parks Trust, as well as ministers and other heads of department why it's important for protected areas, or we can also show the general public and students what they have in the BVI, what is unique to the BVI, and why we should protect it. So it's wonderful for public awareness and education as well, because it's much easier to look at a map than it is to look at an Excel spreadsheet. And going out there and having photos, because some of these GPS units can actually capture pictures as well as video. And so we can capture all that information and come back in and produce something that we could show and display information about plants and animals or historical sites or mooring buoys and marine areas of the BVI.
The Land Registry uses GIS to assist customers and also the staff in identifying properties. We use data relating to names. Land Registry deals with names of ownership, and we collect that by persons registering transfers and prescriptions, partitions at the Land Registry. So we have those names there, which we will then enter into the GIS database. GIS impacts the public directly in it assists them in getting information quickly. It helps to ensure where persons do not know exactly where their properties are, their block and parcel information. The GIS helps us to give that information, locate that information easily, and assist the public with that.
Well, currently the department uses GIS for locating project sites. Gone are the days where you would have to give instructions such as the big coconut tree by the corner and then take tree left and so forth. So once we have the block and parcel information, we could identify the location exactly. We don't necessarily have to leave the office to execute certain measurements. For instance, bush cutting or gut cleaning. We can make those measurements right on the computer screen and establish the distances. And this helps to make the department more efficient. Thus, the execution of the projects can be done in a timely fashion, and the public would see and benefit from the whole fact that we can execute at a quicker pace.
We're not exactly using it right now. We're just about to begin. We just had our training. We just obtained our software and some of the handhelds. But we propose to map the hot spots throughout the territory, meaning places where mosquitoes breed intensely. And we need to be able to determine where these locations are precisely down to the lot. Because in every district, of which there are 16 localities, you have all of these premises, and the types of premises change every 2 to 3 months. So we need to be able to keep track of those. We also want to be able to identify the types of breeding that we get, because we need to be able to determine what types of breeding is taking place and where, since we need to communicate that information to our field staff. And so if we have this capability, we are better able to have them go precisely to where we need them on any particular day. Now there's also the question of the ponds and the junction boxes for the various utility companies. We have to be able to identify those as well, because all of these contribute to the mosquito breeding problems in the territory. Because if we can more readily locate and treat those places we find with mosquito breeding, then obviously there is a greater sense of relief. Because if we are not able to correct the problems, then obviously people are not going to get the problems that they report to us solved in time, and they get frustrated and they will obviously let us know about it. So timeliness is very important, since the mosquito breeding cycle is just about 7 days from egg to adult. So if a person reports a problem, or if we find a problem, we have so little time that we have no time to waste trying to locate those areas.
The National GIS Network is also utilized by various private users. Here's what one had to say.
The GIS system has been very beneficial to us. In the past, whenever we were trying to identify properties or locate real estate properties, we would normally go down to the survey department and to land registry and gather information in order to be able to get an idea as to where properties were located. Since we started using the GIS system, we have been able to stay in our office and actually use the GIS system to locate properties, which basically gives us an idea as to where they are located, the size of the property, what has been developed on the property, and basically what also surrounds the property. And as a result of that, we normally would not have to leave our office to go out to determine where these properties are. In addition to that, we have been able to use the maps that can be printed from the GIS system to form part of our residential and commercial appraisals. In addition, the GIS maps have been also used to allow us to use this information to develop our listings for the various properties that we have throughout the British Virgin Islands, which also includes the management of properties. So I am pleased to say that the GIS system going forward can only continue to be of benefit to us in the real estate industry. And I'm looking forward to the day when it becomes a tool that can be used by all stakeholders involved in the various aspects of real estate. I know that from time to time there have been attempts made to update the system, and I look forward to the day when the system is updated so we can actually have information right up to date. So on behalf of the staff at Smiths Go BVI Limited, I'd like to say that the GIS system has been very beneficial to us, and we look forward to supporting the government in any way possible to ensuring that the system continues to improve from day to day. Thank you very much.
This broadcast was brought to you by the Department of Information and Public Relations and this station.